clearly, when you did this rally, you would have known that you were breaking the law, technically. Did that bother you?
Well, that isn't right. We had a lot of ongoing discussions with the police and everything was OK, and they agreed to enable our rally to end in a march to Downing Street. So there was completely no problem at all. We are a political rally and those are allowed. However, at the last minute, a different group of policemen turned up and arrested me. And when I was in the van, I asked them what is going on. And they indicated, let's say, that this came from on high. So as far as we can see, it's a political decision to arrest me, whereas allowing a Black Lives Matter event at the same time, or further down into Parliament Square, allow that to happen.
And what was the reason? What was the reason given to you? Yeah, I mean, you raise an interesting point. I'm not really sure why you're being singled out for a £10,000 fine when there have clearly been a lot of other mass protests. What was the reason given to you as to why you have been targeted when, as you said, so many Black Lives Matter protests have taken place without anyone being fined?
No. Piers, it's interesting talking Piers to Piers.
Yeah, we don't meet many other Piers.
No, they didn't give.
I actually have a brother. I have a brother called Jeremy to make things even more weird.
OK, that's good. No, they didn't give a reason as to why I was singled out, and I should think you, Piers, should challenge Sadiq Khan to explain why he's got political policing in London now, and also challenge him, if it's not political, allow us to have another rally on the 26th of September, just before Parliament.
OK, well, I would say I don't understand why you've been singled out.
Trafalgar Square again, 26th of September.
Yeah, on that point, I can agree with you. It seems irrational and unfair.
But shall we look at the reasons
we will
why you held
let's get to what you were actually protesting about. Do you believe the coronavirus?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you believe the coronavirus pandemic is real?
Well, there's various views on this. I mean, some doctors say that actually what we're seeing is some sort of flu that's been around for 46 years. And others say, well, it doesn't exist at all. There isn't actually a virus.
What's your view?
Everything which happens is exaggerated. Well, what we're doing is we're challenging the government to give actual evidence that there is a virus, and we've given them till the 5th of September to reply, to show under standard
Hang on a moment. The Prime Minister himself was hospitalised with the virus. How much more evidence do you need?
Well, was he hospitalised with the virus or was he ill from something else? You see, there's a lot of claims going on, and of course there might have been something happening in the past.
You're suggesting the British Prime Minister invented... OK, just to clarify, you are suggesting the British Prime Minister invented having a virus that may not exist?
I don't know if anyone invented it or not, but I would say that the numbers of people getting whatever they're getting is declining rapidly, and there's no justification whatsoever
25 million people. Well, again,
lockdown.
Mr Corbyn, let me just jump in. Just to clarify the numbers, 25 million people around the world have tested positive for coronavirus, COVID-19.
Well, yes, but you see...
And over 800,000... Hang on, let me finish the question, then I will let you answer.
These tests don't work. These tests do not work.
Let me finish the question. And over
don't interrupt me when I'm answering.
I won't. I'll let you answer. Over 800,000 people have now died from COVID-19. That is a demonstrable fact. Now, what part of that do you think does not constitute a pandemic?
Well, 800,000 people have died and they've been labelled COVID when it might have been completely something else. It is not a pandemic because the numbers dying are nothing different from a normal year of people dying, whereas they die all the time. And secondly, it is not a high consequence infectious disease, and that was declared by the government and the World Health Organization on March the 19th. So what we have is a psychological operation to close down the economy in the interests of mega corporations who are going to gain out of massive joblessness happening upon us now.
More than 40,000 people have died in this country as a result of COVID directly.
Yeah, people are dying all the time,
Piers
and they're labelled COVID.
What an insult to their family to say it's some kind of fiction
to
boost
Dr. Vernon
international pharmaceutical companies.
Listen, well, it is boosting pharmaceutical companies and big telecom, who are making billions and billions out of this, while the ordinary British worker is going to the wall, losing jobs.
If those pharma companies
we
are coming up with treatments that can help people who are suffering and potentially find a vaccine that can prevent long-term illness and death.
There's no need for a vaccine.
That is entirely justified,
no.
isn't it?
Vaccines cause death.
In order to
history of
them.
Listen to me. You're interrupting. The history of recent modern vaccines shows they make people more ill. There is already a cure for these COVID symptoms, namely chloroquine and zinc. So there's no need for a vaccine whatsoever, except to make money for the mega corporations and the pharmaceutical industry.
Mr. Corbyn,
there's no need for it. We should scrap it because you, the viewers, are paying for it.
Mr. Corbyn, if you may let me jump in.
What are you telling me about hydroxychloroquine?
It's not a cure for COVID-19. That's a complete lie. It's not a cure.
No, the doctors who've done it have said so, and it works.
No, they haven't.
And there's no evidence yet from Boris Johnson that we have a virus. Maybe there's a virus, maybe there's not.
I don't mind you coming on and talking about these things, but if you're going to state bald lies like hydroxychloroquine being a cure for COVID-19, that is simply not true.
I'm relying on expert doctors. Doctors say this, and I suggest what you say isn't true.
You're relying on conspiracy theorists' whack jobs.
And you're not taking account of the studies that have been done on hydroxychloroquine.
You just use phrases like conspiracy theory when you've got nothing to say.
OK, on vaccines, what happened with measles if vaccines don't work?
Yes, these are earlier type of vaccines. I'm talking about modern vaccines.
Did it work then? The vaccine for measles, did that work? Did it work?
It might well have worked, but the vaccines of the past are different from the ones now, which have many additives, which are in general dangerous, and the statistics show that more people get lower immune systems when they've had vaccines.
Let's bring in Dr. Hillary.
Someone who is an expert doctor who may be very concerned, frankly, about what you're saying. Dr. Hillary.
Extremely dangerous, what we've just heard from Mr. Corbyn, whose statements are littered with errors, absolutely littered with dangerous errors. The hydroxychloroquine and zinc, for example, completely dissed by hundreds of different experts. Let me tell you about the virus not existing. The virus has been identified by the electron microscope. We have sequenced the entire ribonucleic acid genome, so we know exactly that this is a new virus and it's nothing to do with viruses that we've seen in the last 40 years. All of your statements are not only dangerous. Let me tell you about modern vaccine. You say that the old vaccines could have worked. They absolutely did work. Measles, for example, we saw 460,000 cases every year of measles before vaccination. After that, we saw 130, a reduction of 99.9%.
We're talking about
meningococcal meningitis, which killed 10% of people, was introduced. The vaccine was introduced in 1999, quite recently, and we saw numbers decrease from 883 to 28, a reduction of 97% and a huge reduction in mortality. You are dangerous. You shouldn't be preaching. You're not medically qualified. I don't know where you get your rubbish fake news from, and you shouldn't be on air.
I think you've probably nailed it, Dr. Hillary.
About modern vaccines.
Modern vaccines work very well.
You're frightened.
Meningococcal meningitis. Go and have a look at the stats.
So-called testing.
Piers Cornyn, I think we've heard the expert evidence from the doctor, and we'll have to bring the interview to an end.
Piers Cornyn, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question.
Do you believe DNA and RNA rather than finding a virus?
Piers Cornyn, let me ask you another question.
They have not found a virus.
Do we have to?
Mr. Cornyn, I understand.
There may be one, there may be not. Give them a chance.
Mr. Cornyn, do you believe there is a link between 5G masts and COVID?
Well, that's the question is not correctly posed. The important thing to understand is that electromagnetic radiation, 4G, 5G, and normal Wi-Fi, which is mostly 4G, do lower your immune systems, and the statistics show very clearly, and this is proven by objective tests going over years, that those things do
It's actually complete nonsense, isn't it?
What
you've just said is
no.
With respect,
go online.
It's utter nonsense.
Measurements show 5G is 66 times below the safety limit for harmful radiation, meaning it is not strong enough to harm ourselves or have a negative effect on our immune system.
The important thing is not the amount of radiation. The important thing is the frequency. You're arguing just like the tobacco lobby. We have a new tobacco lobby. They said warming your lungs doesn't matter. It was the tar that mattered. And the same thing with the
climate
5G
change
is warming your skin doesn't matter. It's the frequency that matters.
And climate change is another hoax, yeah? Man-made fossil fuels, all a hoax, everything made up?
Well, the sun rules weather and climate, and I can tell you that Christmas in Britain is going to be very cold, and we might even have snow there, and this comes from our long-range forecast.
OK, let's go to another expert, our meteorologist, Laura Tobin. Do you feel as incensed as Dr. Hillary?
Shock horror. It's going to be cold in winter and there might be some snow. That's just the most vague thing that anyone's ever said.
Snow on Christmas Day? No, I'm letting you know there might be snow on Christmas Day. I thought that we should excite Piers. All Pierses get excited by snow on Christmas Day. Am I right?
OK, well, the world is warming and climate change is very, very real.
Piers Cornyn, can I ask you, do you have these conversations with your brother who wanted to be British Prime Minister?
Do I have what? The what?
Do you have these same conversations with your brother, Jeremy?
Well, I have many conversations. I mean, I'm sure we agree on many things about the current British economy and the crashing of jobs, which is an utter monstrosity. And I say the answer to that is end lockdowns now and save jobs, save lives, save the economy, save culture.
How many of your views does he agree with?
I don't know. But we agree on many things and we disagree on a number of things.
Does he believe COVID-19 exists? Or does he think, like you, it's all been drummed up by the evil pharmaceutical people?
All I'm saying is, Piers, listen to me. I said we're giving the government a chance to prove under standard tests that it exists.
Of course it exists, Piers Cornyn.
If they've got proof...
You're talking complete nonsense, man.
I'm saying we're giving them a chance.